you have old kitchens, old baths, and all the houses around you have new kitchens and baths. You can get a contractor to come in and give you an estimate. And you can upload photos of the old kitchens, the old baths, and you can upload the contractor's estimate. You know, some houses actually need significant work to even put them in average condition. And, you know, by that, you know, let's say you live on the water in East Rockaway, and a lot of the homes on the water in East Rockaway, they have docks, and the docks got really badly, the bulkheads got really badly hit by Sandy. If you have to replace a bulkhead, that's a $60,000 to $80,000 expense. If you have your choice between buying two houses, one with a new bulkhead and one with a bulkhead that needs to be replaced, you know, you got to take that into consideration. So you give them the estimate for that big repair. Not guaranteed to get you a reduction, but every little bit helps. This is how you show that you are improperly assessed. Okay, let's just go back to home. We'll take it over here. I'm going to just take you back to the Nassau County page. I want to show you a few things.
Hey, Jeff, I have a question.
Yeah.
What if it says that you have a finished basement, but you don't have heat?
Okay. Finished. Now, this is interesting. If you disagree with your property description, and we were actually just going to get to that, there are some things that don't require the assessor to come in and look at. Okay? Again, remember, there's still two different owners. You can file your tax grievance with ARC and say you don't have heat in your basement. But unless you give them proof of that, they're not going to give you a reduction. And the way to get proof of that is to bring it to the Department of Assessment to confirm that it's not a finished basement because it doesn't have heat. But that means an inspector comes into your house and they do their job and they make sure that the square footage is right, they make sure the fireplaces are right, they make sure the bathroom numbers are right. So you got to give some thought before you invite the inspector in. Now, the difference between a house with a finished basement, which they sometimes also call a rec room, and a finished basement, it could be $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in additional value on the house. So that's a big, big thing, and that's something I would think about bringing the Department of Assessment in on.
So what's the baseline? Is it like, do you have to have baseboards?
Okay,
or
in the town of Hempstead, you have to have heat, which could be forced air, it could be, hot water pipes. You can also do that if they're running through the house, and you have to be 6'10" to the beam. If you're less than 6'10" to the beam in the town of Hempstead, you aren't considered a finished basement. Okay? You got to give it some thought. If your property description is wrong, you go to the Department of Assessment and you tell them it's wrong. If it's inside your house, then you may not want them in. You have to give it some thought. Well, let's say you filled in a pool. Well, then it's easy for them to come and look and see you filled in the pool, or you removed the deck, or you removed the patio. If you only, a lot of times people say, I have a one-car garage and I don't have a one-car garage. And so I asked them, does that mean you have living space where there used to be a garage? Well, you'd rather have a garage than an extra living space. So you really have to give some thought before you say, come on in. But remember this, people from the Department of Assessment are county employees. They're doing their job when they come in and do the inspection. I'm not saying to be afraid of them. I'm just saying you have to make a decision whether you want them in your house or not. Sorry? Well, the question is, was it ever a two-car garage? Okay, so it's just a one-car? You'd want them to come and look at that. Because that is, a two-car garage might be assessed at $20,000 versus a one-car for you. So you'd get a reduction from that. But I would do that really simply. I would take a photo of the garage open, okay? And I'd upload it as a photograph. And then maybe after this year, I'd ask the Department of Assessment to come in and look at it. Simple. All right? The county has a website, Ask the County Assessor, where you can leave emails that may or may not be responded to. But you can also set up appointments to meet with the assessor. Even if the period's over, they'll still meet with you to talk about things on your property card that are wrong. Finished basement, two-car garage. Some things people are saying, I only have one fireplace. I'm just not worried about a fireplace. It's just not adding enough value or moving enough value to worry about bringing someone in to look at. All right. Yes, ma'am?
We have a street that floods every time it rains.
Absolutely. That's something that I would upload photos of the street flooding. Obviously, if you've been flooded during, you know, we have to go back to my house. I'm sorry, because they said it was optional. But it's really, in my opinion, it's not optional. There's a spot on the form in Part B. Can you go back? I want to put my house back in. We could either view or change your appeals. I'm going to go click here. We can go here and just change that. This is something else I want to discuss because the flooding is really an issue. Let's just click, find cells. Oh my gosh, somebody might read this from third party. I'm really worried. Find my house. All right, just click one so we can go to the next. I just want to show what happened. Obviously, I wouldn't just choose this one because it's so much more than what they have to assess. And actually, if you think about it, they must know that house has a new kitchen because that house, you know, was assessed high. Let's just come down to here, Part C. Okay, when you see it says Part B is optional, do yourself a favor, click on display. Part D, right above Part B. Now, if they have the wrong address, when it was sold, or the year, we don't really care. I spoke to the commission, the chairperson of ARC. They really aren't all that concerned about all of this because they have all of that information. What they don't have, however, is this, the other facts section. And that's where you would put in that you flood all the time. The reason I wasn't focusing on it is because I would upload the photos.
Right.
But now, on Bell Road, the house behind me flooded. My house did. The house 3 doors down, where they actually aren't built up, they're actually below the 8-year, the 100-year flood zone. They flooded in their garage and the first floor, but my house didn't flood. But I still think there's something important that there was flooding on your street during Sandy. So if your street was affected during Sandy or your neighborhood was affected, you're going to write here, you know, houses on street and a neighbor's flooded. Now, there are people who still today don't want to move to the waterfront neighborhoods because they're afraid of flooding. I'm not, but they might be. So I would want to put that down, other facts. Just, you know, Bell Road and adjacent houses flooded during Sandy. You're in a flood zone. Also put down old kitchen. Okay? These are things that the assessor can't know. And somebody said today they want to know about their house having, you know, old kitchens, old baths, needing work. Right, that's what you would put that down. And then I would probably upload photos if you think you can do that. Yes, ma'am? So that's something to put down, because you have to replace the siding, $10,000 to $15,000. So that's something you would put down. Yes, sir?
What defines old kitchen, old bath, so many years?
Yeah, I'd say over 20 years, over 10 years. My wife would say over 5 years, but I'd say over 20 years. She did. But it's still not new. It's all newer. Yes?
So when you have the listings of the comparables in your neighborhood, you said choose the one directly behind? They always put the house directly behind?
The one, okay. The ones the county on the arrow system right after your house,
Right.
those are the ones the system thinks are the most accurate. Now, there's a caveat. The Assessment Review Commission uses a program called Arrow to determine if you're entitled to a reduction. The county, and eventually they will switch over and use Prognos. Prognos is the system that the Department of Assessment uses to value your house. Prognos is actually a better system. It's more accurate, it's able to make better determinations among houses. Now, if you want to see what's on your Prognos report, which is how the county has arrived at your value, they show this to you. Now, I hear a lot of people usually to your right on the legislature, screaming, this is open, has to be open, this has to be open. This is the most open reassessment you'll ever see. No county anywhere in the country gives their residents more information about how their house is valued, how the reductions happen, than Nassau County is right now. Talk about a difference between the other system where you had no idea how your house was valued. They're telling you in straight numbers. It's clear. And they're giving you all the information you need. Now, has the assessor made mistakes? Yes. Have they been big mistakes? They're not really going to affect your assessment. The valuations of your home now don't go final until April 1, 2020. So we have 14 months to get it right, and we're going to get it right. And as I said, he really needs that extra year after that to take everybody who's grieved, look at them in the system, look at all the people who have it and made the adjustment. But I was there during the last assessment. We are so far ahead of them. And you know, what you may have heard is, oh, well, in the last assessment, the assessor was out there every day lecturing. You've heard that, right? Wasn't true. The assessor, Harvey Levinson, was in every day lecturing, but Harvey didn't get into office until the process had already been in place for 10 months. You remember, he beat Charlie O'Shea. Okay? So the system had been broken 10 months. The assessor didn't fix it. The new assessor came in, worked on getting it fixed, and then went out and started meeting with them. And that's what's going to happen. And thankfully, there are, Carrie, how many assessment meetings has Laura Curran set up now? Like 45?
45,
yeah.
Yeah.
So there are going to be meetings where they'll be doing what I'm doing. They're not ready to start telling you how accurate this is because they don't know until you file your grievances and they have another year. But they do know it's going to be a lot closer than the prior rolls, which are the worst rolls anywhere in the country. All right, let me just get you to the progress report so you can see this, and then we'll answer questions, because there's going to be a lot of questions on this. All right, Lee, let's go back to the county. Okay, everybody understand the other facts section and what you put in there? Anything that you think affects the value of your house goes in part the other facts section. All right, we're just going to go back to Nassau County.
Jeff, just a quick question. If you have a lot of facts and a lot of pictures, you have a better shot. Do you have a better shot at doing it online or putting it on paper for someone to look at?
If you do it on paper this year, they're just going to scan it. They're just going to have the clerk scan it. You're better off doing it online. All right. So when you're at NassauCountyNY.gov, there's a lot of cool things you can do from this, including registries and like that. You go to e-services. Yeah, it's true. Okay, look down here, couple. You're going to come over to assessment, e-services, assessment information.
I have a question.
Okay, 1 second. And then we're going to put in my address here, 2723 Bell. Yes?
So, if I grieve my taxes, my property taxes, and I get it lowered, like...
You grieve your assessment, though. You don't grieve your taxes, you grieve
yeah,
your assessment.
I grieve, right? And the value of my property is lowered, so my taxes automatically lowered, right? So, does that mean that my school taxes would go up because the rate changes?
Every time someone gets every time somebody successfully grieves, the school tax rates go up a little bit.
So it's not fixed?
Oh no, it'll be fixed because you don't see that difference. If only one person, look at it this way, if everybody in the district grieves, then everybody's taxes go down, the rate goes up for everybody. What happened is under the other system, half the people would grieve and get reductions, half the people wouldn't. So much value was taken out of the neighborhood, in the school district. So that affected the tax rates. If only 10% of the people get reductions every year, which is really where we aim for, that should be the best you ever get, it's not going to have much of an effect at all on the school tax rates. If 10% of the people get a 5% reduction, school tax rates are going to be pretty stagnant. And that's what you're aiming for once the assessment, once the reassessment is done. You're looking, and that's a 5-year process. They're looking at a 5-year phasing. So if you're over-assessed, and you're going down because of reassessment, and about 48% of the people in the county are going down, okay? It's gonna take 5 years. And that's not fair to them either. You know, that 5 years to pay the fair amount. I mean, Carrie, I don't know how you guys do this. I mean, I think you're trying to represent everybody in your district by making sure the rolls are accurate and making sure that Moog does his job. That's the right thing. But you have 13 people at least on the legislature, maybe 14, who don't want the rolls changed. They want to keep it at .0025. Well, that's only representing half their district because a lot of people are going down. Now, those people who are going down may not be here, but they're still your neighbors, they're still entitled to their reductions. There's a house in Belmore that was bank-owned, the people ended up buying it. They hadn't grieved in 10 years, and their taxes going down $16,000. They now, because of the phase-in, they're going to pay $45,000 more than their correct amount over the phase-in period. That's not fair. I mean, I'm paying their taxes now, but, you know, right now they've been paying a big share of people's taxes in Belmore, and eventually it'll be evened out a little bit. Okay, so we're going to put in Bell Road, we're going to write up on a robot, we're going to hit search. All right, and this brings you, okay, look, in the county, if you don't speak English, they have a language line that will help you. Okay? But this brings you down where you can see pretty much everything about your property. Okay? You can see I got that down pretty low, 357. Okay? Still not as low as the people in Cherry. I'm angry about that. Okay? They ticked me off. All right? And so now I'm assessed at 655. We already know it's pretty close. I mean, you can see the comparables are in the range. Okay? Plus, that's about where we're selling it. We can go in here. This is what I want to show you real quick. You can do this on each of yours. Hit open general and school taxes. Over here. Go to 2016. So you look at my school tax rate. It's 980 in 2016, so this is only 3 years ago. 980 per 100. Okay? Now just go to 2018. Okay? So this is $100 per 100. So if your house is assessed, you know, that's an extra $1,400 a year. And if the house is assessed where it was. And that's, I voted for maybe a third of that. The rest is all because of the assessment. That kind of jump is because of the assessment screw up. And that's, it's not as bad in Elmont as in other districts because in Elmont, until Carrier started holding these sessions, you didn't have 50 or 60% of the people grieving and getting reductions. You had 30%. So what was happening was Elmont people weren't grieving, so they might get a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house, assessed at $350, which was proper at the time, and they're paying the same county tax as the Jericho house and me. That's not fair. Okay? That's what we're trying to fix. Well, I'm not trying to fix. County's trying to fix. Okay, so from this page, there's a lot of things you can go to. Scroll down. Sorry, up. This is really kind of important. Okay? We've got our tax impact statement. Let's just go to that. And what the tax impact statement shows, okay, is I was paying about $13,009, and now after reassessment, I'm going to pay about $15,000. Not so bad. Being phased in over 5 years, it's going up $1,000. The property value went from $357 to $655. Nearly doubles, but my taxes aren't going up that bad. You know why? Because everybody in Belmore grieved, and everybody in Belmore is going up 30 to 40%. So they're eating, you know, it's evening out. I don't have a problem with that, but now I just want to point this out. This is, again, the legislature, not you. The legislature screamed. You gave us this new number, the new number that you need to grieve, because I knew as soon as I saw 655 I was going to grieve. I want you to send out impact statements. Now, the county always planned to send out impact statements. But they did some grandstanding and they issued a law saying they needed to be out by the end of November. Well, that's great, except for one thing. The 18-19 tax rolls aren't final in November. So, in order to comply with this stupid stupid. Sorry, if anybody has a legislator, if you should talk to them about it. They directed that the assessor send out tax impact statements by November. Well, based on November, the only rolls we had was 17, 18. They're already a year and a half old. So this impact statement is inaccurate because this house got a reduction in 18, 19. So you saw how it was 355? Well, they show it as 380. Okay, because it's inaccurate because it was sent out before the 18, 19 rolls were final. They should have said, we want these out the first week, first week of February, and then they'd be useful. But because they wanted them out in 17, 18, the county wasted, what, $250,000 on mailings and getting those ready? Instead of working on getting the rolls accurate, which is what the assessor needs to do. What the problem here is it's politics. If the reassessment is successful, and 2 years from now people say, okay, it's fair, Laura Curran wins her next term. And if it doesn't, then the Republican gets it. And so what they've done is they've decided to make this a political issue. Instead of what they need to do is what Carrier is doing. They're not representing all their residents because half of their residents are going up, half are going down. The proper approach is what Carrier is doing, what Deborah Muley is doing, saying reassessment has to happen. It has to happen as quickly as possible. And we have to make sure it's accurate. We have to make sure they do the right thing. And I expect you're going to be drilling him to make sure it's the right thing and that he's following proper procedures and the rolls are accurate. But reassessment has to happen because otherwise those people in Jericho are going to be under-assessed till they're in their 80s now, so they're going to be under-assessed till they're 120. Yes?
Can you explain the transitional cap?
Okay, the transitional cap, and this is in the governor's budget, so it looks like it's going through, it's 5 years. So if you're going up $2,000, you're going to go up roughly $400 to $500 a year until you're paying your full fair share of what you're supposed to be paying. And the converse of that, though, is if you're overpaying, you're going to be overpaying until he's paying the correct amount. So it balances out.
So in the first year, it's 80% of your full value.
Right.
The second year, it's what?
60, then 40, then 20, then full. But until everybody is paying their correct share, somebody's paying more and somebody's paying less. Once everybody's paying the correct share, by that time, we better have this worked out. And then you won't be seeing people get reductions like you were talking about, and your school tax rates are going to stabilize. So you're not going to be seeing that 7 to 8% jump a year in school tax rates. All right? The legislature, not Carrier, okay? Not Carrier, doesn't understand the correlation between Mangano's assessment and school taxes. If we don't do this now, in 4 years, 5 years, some of you are going to be paying 40% more in school taxes. And that's when you get in your car and leave for Florida. Okay? It has to be fixed. Yes?
What about the cap I was hearing about, your taxes could only go up 20% in 5 years?
The only people talking about a cap of 20% for 5 years are stupid lawyers and lying politicians. And everybody else is ignorant and they get a pass. The Board of Assessors, this was challenged in 2003 in a case called Griffel versus O'Shea. And the reason I know that is I was one of the defendants in that. And it went to the Court of Appeals of New York, that's the highest court of New York, and it says the statute as written and as the only way you can interpret it is that in a reassessment year, when you have to capture all of the lost value, okay, from homes like that Jericho home, from homes like mine, okay, you're allowed to change the level of assessment to capture the lost value. Otherwise, it makes no sense, and they pointed out, homes like the Jericho home would be under-assessed for 30 years.
Do I have to go to that screen to figure out what my taxes are going to be?
Well, this screen will help you. It's not accurate, it's not entirely accurate.
I have a guy doing my tax, doing the challenge every year.
Okay.
I just married into that and whatnot, not realizing.
You can change that.
That was easy. I signed on already for this.
Okay, well, next year you can change it.
Next year I can change it.
Right.
That's all fine and good. Now, I'm trying to get a handle on, I've got the new number, Which in all honesty is probably about right. Where are my taxes gonna go in 5 years?
Well, that's, see, what you're hoping, okay, is by the time that full value kicks in, okay, because it sounds like you're going up. Okay, you're going up. By the time that kicks in, you'll stop seeing the wild swings in your school tax. What town are you in?
I'm in Valley Street, I'm in North Valley Street, so I'm Elmont Sawana.
North Valley Stream has been seeing 5% a year. You only vote for 2%. That other 3% is because of everybody else getting reductions. So ideally, when you're paying your fair share, correct share, not fair, it's not fair, okay? But when you're paying your correct share, you're not going to see the wild swings, okay? Belmore is going up 5% a year, and Wanto's going up 6%, just because of the assessment screw-up, all the people getting reductions. They got to get the numbers accurate. Now, what I'm concerned about, and I think everybody should have some concern, is, you know, Mangano ran on a "I'll freeze your taxes" platform, and he won by 358 votes. And the result is everybody in Wanto's school tax went up, 7% last year, because they didn't understand what that meant. What we have to do, and this is really where your job is, to make sure that once the rolls are fair, they stay that way, and they can't be changed by a pandering politician that comes in and says, oh, I'm going to lower your taxes because I'm going to freeze your tax rate. We have to keep it fair. I was serious about what I said, though, about the 6% and the 20%. 6% per year and 20% over 5 years. But the people saying that, and in this case, they're both bad lawyers and lying politicians, because they know better and they've read the case law. In a reassessment year, and that's what we're in, you're allowed to lower the level of assessment to capture the value.
And that makes that null and void.
And that makes it null and void for 1 year only. So after this year, the 6% comes back in, unless they lower the level of assessment. Now, I don't know where the legislature was when they were lowering the level of assessment for those that grieved, but not for those that didn't. I mean, that's completely unconstitutional, but they did. Okay. And they never seemed to hold a hearing then.
Correct.
Okay?
Correct.
So, you follow? So this year, they're lowering the level to get those people in Jericho up to the right amount. And then after that, the 6% comes in. So you'll be able to have some consistency with what your assessment is each year, and it'll even be more accurate because you can have the rise and swings in your school tax rate. Right? We want to keep you here. We're trying. Right? Yes?
I have a question going back to the appeal application. In Part B, you mentioned before lowering it 10 or 20%. Would you recommend one over the other?
You know what? We all sort of have an idea of what our houses are worth. If you really think your house is vastly overassessed, go lower.
Okay.
But for the most part, 10% is going to be enough.
That's a great question. Can you just repeat that for the crowd? Great question.
What I told people is when it puts in the
Part B.
Part B, takes the average of your comparables that you chose and puts it in a numeric number in Part B. And I've recommended lowering that between 10 and 20% before you submit. It's really just, it's a feel. I know I can never get my house below 600. There's just really no comps in decent shape in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so I probably wouldn't try for that because I'm trying to, if this goes in front of an appraiser, I want to look fair. I don't want to look like I'm choosing the little bungalow 6 miles away.
Can the appraisers still take it lower?
No. No.
You got a question right here.
That's why we go lower. Yes?
So in terms of comps, we still have a 60% amount of short sales and newly foreclosures on the market.
Okay. The county doesn't consider short sales and foreclosures as fair market value transactions. Doesn't mean you can't choose them, but the county can reject them. Now, there are some very small pockets, and I don't think Elmont's going to qualify for that anymore. Excuse me? Okay, well, you know as a realtor, there are, there was a time in 2008, 2009, where short sales in some neighborhoods were the norm. Then you can count them, because that's what every house is being compared against. But now that's not the case.
But now there's more foreclosures coming in.
Yeah. Okay, well, you might be able to use them, but they're not considered arms rate transactions. Let me just go back. This is, so keep in mind, because this is 2017, 18, it isn't entirely accurate. If you got a reduction in 18, 19, or 19, 20, it doesn't take that into consideration. Okay? What that means is if you got a reduction in 18, 19, 19, 20, and you're going down because of reassessment, you're not going to have much of a phase-in going up. But if you're going up, your phase-in is going to be higher because you're already lower. What's accurate about that number is where you're going to end up. Generally, my house is going to be somewhere in the 15,000 range. But then again, your school tax goes up 6% a year. You got 2 more years. It's probably closer to 16. All right? You understand taxes still go up even though your assessment goes down. And what we're just trying to look at is your share of the pie. Okay? Only want to pay the correct share of the pie. Actually, everybody wants to pay less, but I think those days are over. Yes?
2-question part.
Be loud.
Yeah, 2-question part. You discussed about the 2% cap on school taxes, but then there's the potential of getting up to that 5-6% range. Who has this? The second part of that is who has the legislation or oversight to that?
The 2% cap on all municipalities is a state rule, state law. And in fact, it just went permanent, right, Carrie?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's a state law. But nobody controls your school tax, because your school board may vote for a 2% increase. But if assessment is broken, you're still going up 7% a year. So we have to fix that in order to keep the school
tax. The
tax.
legislation is dictated by property
The
tax.
2% maximum increase per year is dictated by the state law. Okay? But that doesn't take into account changes in rate as a result of lost property value in a school district. You know, instead of seeing tax grievances that lower the value, let's just go back to the Chicago fire in 1906 or 1908, whatever it was. Half the property in Chicago was wiped out. The school taxes for the other half had to pay for that half. You know, you lose property value in a district. Okay, you know, and I think Elmont has this issue. You have a lot of tax exempt properties because there are a lot of small churches, a lot of pastors' houses. Those houses come off the rolls. So picture if 50% of the houses in the neighborhood went to become churches or synagogues. All right, they come off the rolls. The other houses have to all pick it up. It's the same as if you lose value. I'm not getting into that one. I am not picking that fight, okay? All right, no, we are not talking about churches or synagogues. I was using it as an example, okay? Between your God and, Yes, sir.
On one of the letters that we received, on the bottom, it said that all exemptions have been added in.
Correct.
How is that figured?
Well, in other words, if you have a veteran's exemption,
Yeah.
thank you for your service. Okay? If you have a veteran's exemption, they are calculating it as you have a veteran's exemption from 1 year of 2017. They're saying, well, if your taxes went up because your assessment went up, you're still getting your veteran's exemption. So it's showing, it's trying to compare apples to oranges, apples to apples. What's interesting is if somebody bought a house, though, where the prior owner had the veteran's exemption or the senior exemption or senior star or the hand star, you don't get that. So if you bought a house recently where the owners were, would have been a veteran or would have had one of those exemptions, probably call the Department of Assessment and ask them to help you recalculate. And they'll do that because you're not going to get all the reductions they have. Yes, ma'am.
My husband and I actually contacted your office last year to file for the 2019-20.
You're in Belmore?
No, Seaford.
Okay.
And we received our stipulation of settlement, and we have to file, I guess, or accept it by the 6th.
Okay, what's the reduction number?
It's just $359.
You know how much that is in Belmore? In Seaford?
No.
It's about $5,300. Go have dinner. You don't need to be here. Okay, so you saved about $5,300.
So we should just go ahead and...
Excuse me?
We should just go ahead and accept it, yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
Anybody else want a $5,300 reduction?
She has a hand.
be happy, dance, you really don't need to be here. But now, you know, what's your new number?
You mean the one that they sent for the...
The one for next year, are you assessed fairly, you think?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. Was that, by the way, a new house?
No, it was built in 53.
Okay, and it wasn't rehabbed or completely redone?
No.
No, that's a huge reduction then. We're seeing big reductions on newer construction homes because the Mangano administration really overtaxed them because they taxed them at the full purchase price, whereas everybody else is assessed 40% below their purchase, you know, what they can sell for. You know, and so new construction are seeing big reductions right now. But that's a huge reduction, and just in case you know, my office, we like chocolate chip.
Ted in the back, Ted in the back, Ted right there.
They don't look happy for people that just say $5,300. You know what? Oh, no, that goes into, theirs was from last year, theirs goes into effect by 2019. You'll see that in October 2019. That'll be, I'm sorry, yeah, October 2019. That'll be your school tax bill. That's last year's reading. Now, if they filed this year and got a $5,300 reduction, yeah, that'll be paid. Yes.
Okay. The market value was 324.8, and they gave a 482,100,000, and 10% was 482. How do you calculate the taxes?
You don't calculate it. You're not really going to have.
No, I'm just saying because it's calculated without the transitional tax.
You can go. You know, I just showed you your tax impact statement.
Yeah, I have it right here.
Okay.
But I'm asking how you take the percentage and get this
You
number
don't.
here.
You don't. Okay. You basically, you look at, see, this house is going from 324 to 482. So there's a 50% increase in value. The taxes are going from 11,000 to 9,100. So even though they're going up by $150,000, the people are actually going to see a reduction. Now, you already got it down? There you go. It's going to be done 91. The school tax rates are, they're changing what the school tax levy is, they're taking it's bad. That's how they do it. The formula is they say the school district needs $40 million each year, they need $40 million this year.
So how did they come up with this? That's what I'm asking you.
What they're doing is, I don't know.
Okay, that's what
No
I'm asking.
one has your formula yet, the tax rates on it. All they can do is
We have to proceed.
what your share of the pie is. That's all they can do. Based upon your value, no, it's based upon your valuation of your home versus all the homes in East Meadow. So what they're doing is they're saying, you're going to pay 1/8 of 1% of all the homes in East Meadow. And then they're looking at the budget, and they're saying that's what you're going to pay. Now, this was a really stupid thing you guys asked for. Not you, but you have to, you've got to look at every single taxing district in East Meadow to get that. The fire department, the sanitation, the town, each element of the town. And you have to multiply it by your own percent there. And that's how they did it. But you never really get close to it. Yes?
Yes, the assessment less was at 0.1%.
Right.
Is that, if you're at a 0.025%,
Everybody's going to be.
everybody, so you don't need to do anything with it?
No,
It's going to be
it's all
automatic?
going to be automatic. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Right. No, they can send us emails, they can send us things by email and we'll do that. Otherwise, we just take all the information. All right, where are we? Yes. You didn't get a reduction, you rejected it, you requested it on. Okay? You can call them and tell them you want to reject it, presented it by accident. And then they might look at it and give you another reduction. Yeah, always. absolutely this year. Yes, sir.
Local residents of this neighborhood.
Well, I'm sorry, what's the problem? If you live near the Belmont Park redevelopment, that's a really good question. And you think it's going to affect your value negatively, you should put that in the Part B section of your application. Say, I live 2 blocks from Belmont, we're going to have increased traffic, this is a negative, you need to take it into account. I think, I'm not sure yet they can do that because it's still going to be based on sales, but they should be hearing. And that's something the assessor will start to then look at as, are the houses in this section selling for less? Quick question, let me get Grieve. Yes.
If you get the senior deduction, you still Grieve?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, the reason you Grieve is to protect the value of the house. We have a lot of realtors here who will tell you that sometimes the senior will pass, but they've had so many reductions and so many exemptions that when those exemptions are taken off, the taxes jump to $18,000. You have to keep Grieving to keep your taxes in line so that when you sell, you don't have a ridiculous assessment. Okay. Yes?
When you Grieve, do you run the risk of an assessor coming to your house?
No. Did everybody hear that?
No.
The assessor does not come to your house if you file a grievance. Okay? And they can't raise your assessment if you file a grievance. So filing a grievance is essentially a free move. Okay? That's why 200,000 people did it last year. Okay? There's no risk at all to you. No one's coming to your house. Yes, sir?
And I think it's like, so let's say right now my case is no doubt. So I realize that if I grieve this year, I get a reduction, then next year I'm going to grieve again, but I finish my basement, and it's now legalized. I can grieve and they're not going to raise it. It's like, oh, your basement.
They're not going to raise it because you grieve. They might raise it because the permits have now been filed on your basement, and they now know you have more living space.
So they would
Yes, right. If you do any construction work other than cosmetic, windows, roofs, those don't count. But if siding doesn't count. But if you add a bathroom, you finish a basement, you do a dormer, your assessment's going to go up. And it's really hard to gauge how it's going to go up. Because I had a house in Roslyn, they were members, they lived in one of these really small houses in Roslyn, and it was $450,000. They were assessed a little low, but that's what it was, and they put a $300,000 dormer on. So you'd think $300,000 dormer on a $450,000 house, what's its assessed value? $750. That's what you'd think. But no, Colonials, which was a raised dormer, sell for $1.1 million. So they added $300,000 of work and probably added $500,000 in value to the house. And so they got assessed on that. It was very scary. But you can go talk to the Department of Assessment if you're going to do major work, but it's not always accurate. Yes? Yeah, it's actually maybe $10,000 difference. So what you would do is you would show that you have window air conditioners, you'd show the sides of the house. Yeah, I do it by photo, and then I would probably call, are you in the town of Hempstead? Okay, call in Valley Stream, have them do the inspection. Because they'll come in just to confirm that you don't have central air. And they'll take that off your property card, and then you can send that to the Department of Assessment. And it won't be somebody looking around to add value to your house. All right. Don't tell anybody what you do. Yes? They're looking within 2 years. With 2 to 3 years. Yeah. If you go to 2016 and there aren't a lot, then you want to use, you can. But 2017 is better. If you're home, if you bought your own home in the last 3 years, it's going to be the best home for you. Yes.
You can keep this quiet, but if you go to my block at 8 o'clock or 2:30 or on a church day.
Photographs. Photographs,
Just take
well,
pictures of everybody parked there, because I can't park in front of
take
my house.
photographs of how busy your neighborhood is, and put that in the other fact section. Yep, the photographs will help that, yes.
When I got my settlement letter, they didn't give me anything more. They said I could go for a conference, but on the conference they said about additional donations.
All right. Okay. Yeah, you live in one state. What you can do is you can call them up and ask them to withdraw your assessment. Okay. If you accept the zero offer, you can't go to SCAR, which is Small Claims Assessment Review. And if you get a zero offer and you don't accept it, you reject it, they may call you up and give you another small reduction. So call them up and ask if you would, on this senior, I didn't understand. Okay, I'd like to withdraw my acceptance and have a conference.
Thank you. It was very informative. Thanks. Have a good night.
They're not political, they care about residents here, they want to keep you here, and they may actually open it up for you. Thank you. You can ask questions. Photographs, put that down on the other back. Photographs of all the traffic on the street. That's how you have to do it. I don't think street traffic can walk down the block. Okay, your market value was 314 and 455. But because everybody in the school district went up, your value with your taxes went from 8,000 to just under 7. Right. But the question is this: do you think you can sell your house for 455? How do you feel good to county assessed? That's what you want. Do you think the county is doing the right thing, or do you think it's going to do reduction to everybody to file a Okay, well then, if you're comfortable and happy, you don't have to file a grievance this year. But if you sat through this, don't hold the file like 5 minutes. Okay? And if that way the rules next year will be more accurate. Okay? But you're going down, well, the county did the right thing. Okay? You're not paying anybody else's taxes except grievance.
Exactly.
Yeah, right?
Yes.
So I'm not happy with the I'm not happy with the
Okay. What I was going to try and show you, what we're trying to get us out of here, is you go to your Prognos report, okay, which is at mynassauproperty.com. Prognos report, it's part of the 511 impact notice. 511 notice. And it'll list every sale under the ballot sale in your neighborhood for the last year. So you might find other sales there. Now, you can load them in by hand, but they won't tell you how they can.
What's the price you think you want to fill out? How is also easy to change
You have to pick comps from the same school district. You have to pick comps from your same neighborhood. Within a half a mile. Yeah, as close as you can. Okay? Remember, somebody is actually going to be looking at this. So you need to make that, they have to understand that you're not thinking ridiculous comparables. You want to make people think, I'm giving this thought. These are the houses in my neighborhood. And if you're not finding comparables that are good in your neighborhood, maybe you're fairly assessed.